ご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
Get two 100% beef Whopper sandwiches, 2 fries, and 2 drinks now for just $10.
Have it your way!
Only at Burger King.
While I have only played one game from the series so far, and I plan on playing the others once I build my new PC, I really enjoyed the first installment of the Hyperdimension Neptunia franchise. The game had solid overall RPG mechanics, the story, while very predictable, was enjoyable, the characters were fun, and the overall production of the game looked good. That sounds like the perfect excuse to create an anime based off the original material, right? Absolutely. Too bad they didn't stick to that route and we ended up with Hyperdimension Neptunia, the animation. What's up guys, it's Kent from Spartan Media Reviews, here to review Hyperdimension Neptunia, the animation. Hyperdimension Neptunia, the animation takes place in the world of game industry and follows the adventures of the 4 CPUs that rule their respective lands. More specifically, the anime feels like a mix between an overarching story with an episodic style blended in. Hyperdimension Neptunia, the animation, in terms of story, was such a disappointment for me. Instead of adapting something that would work well as an anime, they decided to create an original storyline with some ideas of the game's narrative blended in. Why they thought that was a good idea, I don't know. Retelling the first game, or any of the games for that matter, in anime form would have been fine on its own, and I think it would have made for a really fun show, as the game itself, aside from the really solid gameplay, had its charm. Also, if the adaptation was successful, people may become interested in the franchise, which could have possibly increased sales. Another alternative would have been an episodic styled series. I actually found the OVA episode 13 to be one of the best episodes, as it highlights the positive aspects of Hyperdimension Neptunia. Having 12 other episodes that focused on an episodic style may have been a great decision on their part, as there would have been less difficulty in following a continuous storyline. Unfortunately, that will never happen. Instead, the narrative of this series is super pandering to so many audiences. It's like they wanted to appeal to a multitude of demographics, but still keep fans of the franchise happy as well. Too bad it didn't work that way. While the dialogue in the games are nothing special, the dialogue of the animated series felt really childish, which I don't understand since the series isn't meant for kids. There was a ton of sexual commentary throughout the show and most of it was horrendously bad. However, I will say I really enjoyed each abridged style preview used at the end of each episode, and the referential comedy is still 100% on point with what the game covered.
Shoot her!
Creating an overall comedic tone that worked well for the show. Speaking of tone, during many points of the show, I couldn't tell whether or not they were trying to be serious or if they were parodying everything due to the numerous references and mocking of other styles of shows. In the same scene, they could be mocking a certain style of show and the next minute do the exact same thing they were mocking. This was more in part due to the overall writing, but the tone jumped all over the place. One minute something stupid is going on, which leads to some great comedic scene, then we're suddenly on the fight for humanity side of things. The pacing for the show is also horrible, by the way. So much material was condensed into 13 episodes that it was extremely difficult to remember what connected to where. Taking the large amounts of material the writers had at their disposal and using bits and pieces here and there with an original script just didn't work. Either adapt the material or go 100% original. To conclude everything, while the referential comedy returned from its solid gaming series, everything else did not. I think it would have been a more appropriate decision to readapt the first game, but I guess this is what we ended up with. An overly bland mess that is somehow predictable and confusing at the same time. The cast is definitely the highlight of the show for me. I enjoyed listening to the dialogue and interactions in the game, and the anime is no different. While the scripting of scenes could be better overall, the interactions between characters are just as genuine and fun as they could have been. Each personality of the cast is apparent and enjoyable, and while not that good in terms of character progression, are just as good as they were in their gaming counterparts. There really isn't much else to say about this cast, but if you enjoy fun characters that fall into certain anime stereotypes, you will enjoy Neptunia's cast as well. The production quality of the show is perfectly acceptable. It's nothing over the top, but it does just enough to capture the fun nature of game industry. I am glad that they still follow the color schemes for each character, which is an iconic part of their country, as well as keeping the monster designs from the games the same. The color palette of the show is very vibrant as well, along with some decent visual effects work. Character designs are certainly the highlight of the production quality, as we are actually able to see them move around in a 2D environment, compared to their visual novel cutscenes in the games. Then we have the fan service. Now the games have enough fan service on their own, but I guess David Hyper Production couldn't help themselves and decided to go all out on the fan service for this version. Think of every fan servicey trick in the book and it's pretty much part of this show. I mean, we almost get to see an evil mouse kiss Comp on the lips. If that doesn't sell, I don't know what will. The opening, while very fan service heavy, is still nice to look at, and the ending is simple but extremely fun. Think Girls und Panzer except more fan servicey. The overall score for this series is good. While nothing over the top, the score does a nice job in keeping it apparent that this is a video game world. It has a techno-heavy score that resembles a lot of visual novels and old school games, which I personally enjoyed. I also love that they included some tracks from the games themselves, which was a nice touch for certain scenes. The opening Dimension Tripper and the second ending Ione are both okay tracks that I personally have no preference towards. The first ending, however, is right up my alley, being super catchy and upbeat. Then we reach the dub, which for the most part is awesome. Most of the cast returns from the games, aside from IF's original voice actress, Kate Higgins, who is now portrayed by Megan Shipman. The dialogue is given in the same way as the games, which is a treat for me as I love the interactions of the characters. Melissa Fahn does such a great job as Neptune, capturing her quirky personality really well. There was really only one glaring flaw in my opinion, and that was giving the monsters voices for both versions of the show. Why they thought this was a good idea, I'll never understand. Instead of making the monsters menacing, it turned them into cheesy Power Rangers style villains, which I couldn't take seriously at all. Now, with everything that I have said, do I recommend watching Hyperdimension Neptunia, the animation? No. Disappointment is the most appropriate word in describing my overall thoughts on this series. As a fan of the first game, I didn't find any reason to create an entirely different narrative if the games could be adapted easily. Even if I didn't play the games, the story suffered a lot from really poor use of tone, awful pacing, lackluster development, and only okay production value. If you want to experience what makes Hyperdimension Neptunia fun, just check out the gaming franchise instead. Is the show fun? Yes, and I enjoyed watching a lot of it. However, I have very few positive things to say about the show as a whole. Spartan Media Reviews gives Hyperdimension Neptunia, the animation, a bad recommendation. If you are still interested in watching this show, you can check out the series over on Funimation's website. Now, what are your thoughts on Hyperdimension Neptunia, the animation? Comment below. If you enjoyed this review, hit that like button, I would really appreciate it. You can also subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, I would really appreciate that as well. Follow me on Twitter and Hummingbird to keep up to date with the current things that I am doing, and with all that said, I will catch you guys in my next review. Thank you for watching.